Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. And of course, welcome on board our Facebook friends and followers. This is a program, as you are well aware, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so. It's a weekly program aired live from this channel in Tain Quarantine. And we have with us this evening a guest, no stranger to the program, Comrade Adrian Anamaya, Member of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party, and of course an attorney at law practicing right here in Berbice. Adrian, welcome to the program.
Thank you, and good night, viewers.
I want to begin by recognizing that today is a very auspicious day on the Hindu calendar. Today, Hindus all over the world are celebrating Mahashivratri, where they pay penance and they say prayers at the feet of Lord Shiva, the destroyer of all bad things in life. So my Hindu brothers and sisters, happy Shivratri greetings, and may all your prayers today be answered. Adrian, as you know, we are completing another cycle of the registration process. And this is a very important exercise for our country and for our people. Unless you are on the list, then you cannot vote at the next elections. Unless you are on the list, you cannot be issued with an ID card if you don't have an ID card. The registration system in our country is a cyclical one. What that means is it is a continuous one and it goes around in cycles. That is because at every periodic intervals you have persons who would not have been qualified because of their particular age for registration. As they get older, they would become qualified. And it is important for that batch of people to get their names into the cycle, into the system, so that they can be placed on the list for voting purposes and of course for issuance of a registration. So if you are 14 years and above now, you can be registered. And those persons, of course, every elections we find that people did not move, did not do the transfer to the new places that they may have moved to from the last registration process to now. This is the period where you have to get the transfers done. Persons who are deceased and whose names are on the list, it is important that we cleanse the list of those names, because we know that at election times, persons pretending to be these dead people turn up and vote at the polling stations. So right across the country, we have this registration exercise ongoing. There are GCOM centers right across the country. They are well publicized, and persons in the different villages ought to know by now where those centers are. The PPP have activists on the ground, and we are trying to assist, but of course we can never get the manpower required to take over the system. So we need your input, we need your cooperation. All of you whose name are not on the list, we need you to get your name put on that list by appearing at the registration centers, or make contact with a PPP activist in your area. If you are now coming of age, then your name must be there. If you moved and the address that you have on the list is a different one from where you are living now, well, we need that to be rectified. If there is someone dead who you know about and whose name is on that list, we need that name removed. Time is running out. It makes no sense we sit down for 5 years and we lament for 2020 to come, We complain about everything that the government is doing. We say how bad they are, how they are killing the sugar industry, and all the wrongs they are doing. We complain about all year around. But if we do not get our name on that list, then we cannot cast that vote that will get them out of government. It is as crucial as that. Adrian, could you give us an update on what is taking place in Berbice on this matter?
Yeah, thank you. As Anil just told you, this whole exercise and your participation in it will determine the PPP's fate at the next election. That is how important it is. It will determine it can determine if you win the elections or not. So it is of crucial importance. And before I tell people what's going on, tell you what's going on the ground, you know, viewers out there, especially those people who work at election time, volunteer at election time, what a nightmare it is sometimes an election day. As Anil said, people who had transfers to do simply didn't do them. So you might find a man right here in Tain who has to vote somewhere in Essequibo or somewhere in Skeldon, and then we have to see how best we get them to the place of poll where they're registered to vote. So all of these things, you have to be serious. You have to do your duty, because we could talk from now till thy kingdom come, and that will not win the elections if you, or viewers, the voters out there, do not get yourself on the voters list and you go and cast your vote for the PPP when the time comes. So it is of crucial importance. Now, as Anil said, there's a new cycle of registration open, and persons attaining the age 18 years and over on or before April 30th, 2018 should be registered and you have your ID card. Persons attaining 14 years and over on or before the April 30th, 2018, even if you're going to be 14, by before April 30th, 2018, you should go and get yourself registered and get your ID card. This is the time to take care of all the transfers, the correction to particulars on your ID card. Your name might be spelled, you might have gotten married, and for the ladies, your name's changed. If you need to do a deed poll, if there needs to be a replacement ID card, and then there are thousands of ID cards that are there to be uplifted. The last check was about 5,000 ID cards there to be uplifted. So those of you who have already gone through the process, you need to go and get that ID card from the GCOM center in your area. Now the opening hours for the centers are Monday to Thursday from 8 o'clock to noon, and then from 1 to 6. And Fridays, they go from 8 to noon and from 1 to 4 o'clock. And they're also open Saturdays, Sundays, and on holidays from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So viewers and potential voters, there's really there's time there to accommodate everyone. So work with us, work with the local people on the ground, and get out there and get yourself registered if you haven't already gotten an ID card, and do your duty. This is the part that you have to play now to make sure that we win the elections in 2020. It is that crucial.
And let me take this opportunity to encourage our followers and friends who are looking at us on Facebook, and those of you in particular who reside in the diaspora. I know that you have tremendous influence over your relatives and families and friends here in Guyana, and it is imperative that you emphasize to them the importance of getting their names on the register, getting their particulars rectified if it is inaccurate, ensure that they get their transfers done if they had moved from one place to another and they'll be living somewhere else. Elections day, ensure that if their names are incorrect on their ID cards, make sure that all these things are done. And importantly, many of them have their ID cards still to be uplifted. Please, I appeal to you, encourage them to get these things done. This is the only way that we can effect the change that we are agitating for and that we would like to take place. in the near future. Now, Adrian, I want to move to discuss the important issue of the appointment of a Chancellor and Chief Justice of the Judiciary. As you are aware, and as the nation is now aware, the Constitution, Article 127(1) provides that the President is to appoint a Chancellor and a Chief Justice for the country, but he can only do so with the agreement of the Leader of the Opposition. So the President appoints, but he is incapable and incompetent to appoint unless he gets the agreement of the Leader of the Opposition. So like GCOM, you have the input that is required from both the Leader of the Opposition and the President. The President appoints, but his power to appoint cannot be activated unless he gets an input in the form of an agreement from the Leader of the Opposition. We all know the history of what transpired with the GCOM chairman, where the President trampled upon the Constitution, violated the Constitution, rejected all the names submitted to him by the Leader of the Opposition, and proceeded to appoint a person of his own choice in violent contravention of the Constitution. We fear that the same thing will happen here, because as you are aware, Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Bharat Jagdeo, withheld his agreement from the two nominees submitted to him by President Granger. President Granger submitted to Mr. Jagdeo two names, Kenneth Benjamin as Chancellor and Yonette Cummins for the position of Chief Justice. Kenneth Benjamin is the Chief Justice of Belize, and Her Honor Yonette Cummins is the Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary. The Leader of the Opposition has, as he's entitled to do under the Constitution, he has withheld his agreement. So the President cannot proceed to appoint these two persons to the substantive position of Chancellor and Chief Justice. But Adrian, we are getting soundings and we are seeing very ambivalent and doubtful and equivocal statements being made from the government that would suggest that there is a plan to go forward to make the appointment. And what is your take on that?
Well, it will be another gross violation of our Constitution, the supreme law of our country. And the President is, he swore to, took an oath to uphold that Constitution. It is upholding law and order. It is standing for doing what is right by law. Now, as you mentioned with the we saw what was done with the GCOM appointment, unilateral appointment, flagrant violation of the Constitution, broke all the norms. What happened in the past since 1992? What was going on? Now, with respect to the Chancellor and the Chief Justice, there was an amendment to the Constitution, the Barnum Constitution in the past. What Barnum just needed to say, consult with the Leader of the Opposition, and he had a system of rigged election which kept him in power. So you just say, hey, Chedi, I will appoint this person, and that's it. That's the end of the consultation. Now, the PPP changed that, and it is under the PPP that there was constitutional reform and that there was a change to the Constitution, where now the agreement of the Leader of the Opposition is required before you could appoint the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. And so the law is clear that there is no room for ambiguity. For many years, when the PPP was in government, the Leader of the Opposition of the PNC refused to agree to either the position of Chancellor or Chief Justice, and that is why you have for many years a situation where they were acting, those two persons were acting.
There was no agreement coming from either Mr. Desmond Hoyt or Mr. Robert Corbyn, the two leaders of the opposition at the time, and David Granger, who was also leader of the opposition from 2011 to 2015.
Right.
So from 2001, since that constitutional provision came into force until we left office, 2015, for nearly 15 years, the then leaders of the opposition, comprising of Mr. Desmond Hoyt, Mr. Robert Corbyn, and Mr. David Granger, never offered their agreement to the candidatures or the candidates put forward by the PPP. And the candidates that were put forward by the PPP were always the incumbent in office. We never imported anyone from overseas. We were trying simply to confirm those who held the office for over a decade, namely Karl Singh and Ian Chang. Karl Singh was the acting chancellor for over 10 years, and Ian Chang was the acting chief justice for nearly 10 years. And all we were seeking to do was to bring regularity and normalcy to the existing appointments by conforming it. Here you have a chancellor who, I don't want to say much about him, but read in the country where he's performing the functions of Chief Justice what they are saying about him. I am not going to say anything about him here, but if you go on Google and you type in his name, you will see what is transpiring in Belize, the country in which he is currently presiding over as Chief Justice. And that is the person who the President wishes to bring here and to make the Chancellor of the Judiciary. According to the President, by implication, there is no one in the current judiciary or in Guyana who is qualified to be appointed. The same position that he took, 18 distinguished names of professional Guyanese who would have distinguished themselves in various endeavors in Guyana for a number of years and as well excelled in overseas postings that they may have held. 18 of them, we put their names up to be appointed chairman of GCOM. The President rejected them
Non-fit and proper.
as unfit and improper, and again brought someone who the nation had forgotten about, an obscure judge, Justice Patterson, and I say obscure very deliberately, because if you check the annals of the history of Guyana in terms of judges, you would not see any significant contribution, rather any contribution made whatsoever by this Justice Patterson. So this elusive and obscure personality was plucked out by the President from God knows where and made the chairman of GCOM, and he was, according to the President, he is obviously better than all the 18 names that we put forward, which included names that were people who taught the President, his university professor, James Rose. Norman McLean was his employer in the army.
Our previous chairman.
We put a previous chairman of GCOM who is held in high esteem by him, so much so that he had that person as his presidential advisor. But all those persons were rejected for this gentleman named Patterson, who nobody knows, who is 84 years old and can barely walk. And now here you see the parallel. You see another obscure individual being brought into the country, surpassing and being foisted upon us, and without any regard for the existing complement of judges, because they are obviously deemed unsuitable and improper by the distinguished President, and that is why he sees it fit to bring someone from overseas. But Adrian, as you know, there is a provision in the Constitution that addresses the issue of the leader of the opposition and the President not agreeing. You see, the framers of the Constitution had some foresight. They recognized that there may be the eventuality of a non-agreement. Now, what happens in that circumstance? The framers of the Constitution provided for that. They did not leave a hole. They did not leave a vacuum. They did not leave the basis for a constitutional crisis. So, Article 127.2, 127.1 says that the president may appoint but must get the agreement of the leader of the opposition. 127.2 now caters for a situation where there is no agreement. And what it says, it's a little long, but when you read it, what it says is that if there is no agreement, the president can engage in meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and can appoint one of the existing judges to act in those two positions, or in one position each. I'll repeat that. Article 127.2 says that in the event that there is non-agreement between the president and the leader of the opposition for the appointment of a chief justice and or a chancellor, then the president can meaningfully consult the leader of the opposition and appoint one of the current judges in the system as a chancellor acting and as a chief justice acting. I emphasize current judge in the system, not a current judge in the Belize legal system, current judge in the Guyana legal system. I make that point emphatic because I think that they want to bring Mr. Benjamin and they want to appoint him acting judge after there is meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition. But that would be in violation of the Constitution. Justice Janet Cummins can be so appointed because she is from the existing complement of judges. Article 127.2 confines the president's power to make that appointment from the complement of existing judges. Kenneth Benjamin is not part of the complement of existing judges in Guyana. So if they try to use that provision to appoint Mr. Chief Justice Benjamin as the Chancellor, then they would also be violating the Constitution. And as we have said, Adrian, any such violation will result in legal proceedings being filed. But we are not going to do as we did with the GCOM matter. We're not going to allow the office holders to act. We are going to seek to get orders to prevent them from acting in the positions. So they will not be able to perform the functions of the office to which they would have been unlawfully appointed. We will get injunctive orders, prohibitory orders, restraining them from acting until the case is heard and determined. And if it is that we have to go all the way at the interlocutory stage to the CCJ to get an interpretation of this matter, then we are prepared to do so. But we will not tolerate the bastardization and the unconstitutionality to permeate and infect the judiciary, that important institution of law and order, to permeate it from the very top, because it will be poisoning the snake.
Yeah, Anil, well, for those of our viewers who don't know, almost on a weekly basis, Comrade Nanulal here has to be filing some action for some violation, whether it's unlawful repossession or they're taking back leases, they're trying to confiscate property, they're violating the Constitution, and all these things have to be dealt with in the courts, in our judicial system, which is intended to be independent, and that is how it is meant to operate. You have a separation of powers: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, and their checks and balances. The judicial arm is the one that you could go to and complain. Look, the executive has gone out of line, and you need to bring a halt to the madness that they're doing. So that is what we do. So now they are going into the realm of the judiciary and trying to, and we're not casting aspersions on any of the distinguished people that they have, the judges, but look at the manner in which it's been done. So you're going to handpick someone from outside of Guyana that nobody really knows here locally and put them to head the judiciary. So what is the message you are sending there? What is the message you're sending? And then you have Mr. Nandalal and others filing this barrage of legal proceedings. Almost on a weekly basis, you have some serious legal matters being dealt with by this very judiciary. So it does not augur well for the independence of our judiciary, I go so far to say. And that is why, as Anil said, it has to be challenged, and we have to take it right up to the CCJ. You cannot allow it. But Anil, I know you recently filed another case. We just spoke about matters being filed in relation to the ExxonMobil bonus that is there languishing in some private account and not in the consolidated fund where it's supposed to be. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Adrian, as you know, and I'm sure I've spoken at length about these issues on this program, public monies are to be treated in a particular way as stipulated by both the Constitution and the law. Why? Because public monies is not the government money. Public monies are the people money, and a government is responsible to the people for the purpose of how these monies are spent. Parliament is the largest oversight body over which public monies are to be spent by the government. That is why all public monies are required to be deposited in something called a consolidated fund, and can only come out back from the consolidated fund through the Parliament. And once it comes through the Parliament, well, then it is scrutinized by the parliamentarians as representatives of the people. And that, in essence, is how public monies are received and how they go out back from the bank account in which they are supposed to be in. And that bank account is called a consolidated fund. It can't be kept anywhere else. There is a law that the Constitution also says that if different law says that they can be kept different places, well, then so be it. And like how the opposition, the government, when they were in the opposition, they used to say that the lotto funds should be in the consolidated fund. That is wrong. The lotto fund should be in the lotto fund. And the Lotteries Act says that, and the Constitution says that. But those of us who do not read, like Ramjatan, for years he has been saying that. That is why when I was Attorney General, and even before I was Attorney General, I used to challenge them. Every day they used to talk about deposit this money that is in the lotto fund, in the consolidated fund, that it is kept in the lotto fund unlawfully. And I used to say, Mr. Ramjatan, you are a lawyer. Go to the court and get an order, and we will put it in the consolidated fund. Why do you think they never did? They never did, because they cannot. They attempted once through Donald Trotman, and the case did not last 1 month in the court. Ask Christopher Ram. It was thrown out by a judge named Diane Insinali because it was misconceived and wrong. But this is not the category of cases where, like ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil, there is no law that says that the money must be put anywhere else other than in the consolidated fund. You have monies that can come into GGMC to be placed in the GGMC fund. This is not one of them. There is no law where this money has to be placed. It's a signature bonus. It's not royalty. It's not anything else. And the only place where this has to be put is in the consolidated fund, not in a private hidden account in Bank of Guyana. And why must it not be put there? It must not be put there because once it is put there, it can be withdrawn at any time. And none of you and none of us will know. And it can be used for any purpose that is not authorized by law. It can be used, for example, to finance the next election campaign for the PNC. And we would not know because it's in an account that the Minister of Finance can go quietly and draw out. But if it is put in a consolidated fund, it cannot legally come out back other than through the Parliament. and we are sitting in the parliament, so we will tell you and we will know when it comes out back. That is why they don't want it to be put in the consolidated fund. And that is why we have filed that action. Adrian, an important point I want to make, and perhaps I don't think we ever made it. While these people were in opposition, they bombarded this nation with allegations of corruption against us, against the PPP. Whole day. 3 years pass and the corruption is yet to be found in the manner in which they were speaking about it. They said all of us end up in jail. They charged me with a couple law books. That's all they could find. And up to now, these big charges and so on can't come. Although they have chosen their own forensic auditors and they have spent another couple $100 million trying to look for this corruption. Up to now, they can't find it. But they used to say these things over and over. And they never used to file actions. They used to accuse us of unconstitutionality and illegalities every day. And melodramatic ones like Ranjatan used to even turn up at the police station to lodge reports. But they never file a single action. When we complain about an illegality, we follow it up with actions to show that our complaint is not without basis. We are following up our complaints with legal proceedings to show that our complaint have substance and merit. And in fact, we have won almost all the cases that we have filed while this government has been in office. They did not file one in 23 years. We have filed 10 times more than they have filed in 2.5 years than they have filed in 22 years. We challenged the letter that Simona Brooms sent to the Public Service Commission. We won that case. We challenged the letter that Joe Harman sent to the Police Service Commission. We won that case. We challenged Basil Williams' attempt to refuse to bring the board of directors into operation at the Deeds and the Commercial Courts, Deeds and the Commercial Courts Authority. We won that one. And there are so many that we have won. The revocation of the leases for the rice farmers, the attempt to take away house lots from the core home mothers, single mothers. We won all those cases. So when we complain, we follow it up with actions to show that our complaint is bona fide and genuine, and we are not playing politics as they used to do. So the ExxonMobil, we filed the proceedings, and I have no doubt that it will be successful as well. There is another development that should occupy the attention of our viewers. Adrian, as you know, this government has shown a clear and settled policy of not helping the productive sectors, whether it is rice, sugar, forestry, gold, diamond. They're not helping.
They're harming.
Right. None of the productive sectors, but they're pumping money into the non-productive sectors. So the army, and I have nothing against the army, but the army continues to get increased budgetary allocations. Billions. We are now getting a new opportunity corps. We are now getting another people's militia. We will soon get a new national service. Now, these are non-productive organizations, and these organizations are going to live off the treasury. So on the one hand, they are killing the productive sectors. They are killing the productive sectors and harming the productive sectors, offering no assistance to the productive sectors. And then on the other hand, they are increasing the size of the non-productive sectors. Can you imagine that? What is the net effect of this? Bankruptcy. And we have been down this road with them already. They have taken us along that path. And 30 years passed since, or 20 something years passed since, and lo and behold, these people have learned nothing. They are taking us along that same road again. The latest productive sector that they are interfering with is our cash crop and rice farmers at Hope Estate. These people have served 350 notice to quit on 350 small farmers at Hope Estate. You know, sometimes I wonder, like these people, like they don't know. No, let me put it this way. It is as if every day, or there is a group of them that look at where they have not touched and where they have not affected in a bad way.
They're messed up as it.
Are messed up, and then they move in to touch this one up and ensure that they damage this. So they didn't touch these farmers yet. So they damaged Region 5 already. They revoked the leases. They increased rents by a couple 100%. They increased the rates by a couple 100%, and D&I charges. They're not helping the rice farmers find any market. So they destroy that region. That region is barely surviving. Now they move over to Region 4 now, where it's not a farming area, but the largest farming area in Region 4 is Hope Estate. So they moved in there. They moved in there, and now they are plundering. 350 notices to quit have been served on cash crop and rice farmers to put them off the land. Why? Because they illegally have increased the rents by 1,500%.
My goodness.
1,500% they have raised the land rents by. Those people are not troubling you. The land rent can't, if you raise it by 15,000%, it has no impact whatsoever on the economic equation of this country. Those people are not bothering you. They are feeding you. They are feeding themselves. They are feeding the Guyanese people. They are employing themselves. They are employing others. Why you have to go and interfere with them? What is wrong with you? And so they now have 350 farmers basically now will begin to battle for the survival of themselves and their family. The same position that they have the sugar industry in. And that is where I want to bring you in now, Adrian. Tell us, I know that you have been doing a lot of work in Region 6, especially in Kanji and in the Skeldon area. You have had programs designed to assist the sugar workers and their family, and you're also assisting them with acquiring their severance pay. So I know I've said a lot, so you take over the program now and update the people on what is going on with the program that they're running.
Yeah, well, those of you who've been following on Facebook and so, you would see that what was done, we have formed, that is the PPP, the People's Progressive Party, an initiative by the party. We have engaged the religious community, and because this problem, this is a humanitarian crisis as we see it, and what is happening to the sugar workers, it is real, it is present, and it is destroying the lives of not only the adults but the children. So the PPP responded by engaging the religious bodies, NGOs, and civil societies to form groups in areas where the sugar estates have been closed, Skeldon, Kanji, and more Wales. In Berbice here, we have formed what we call the East Berbice Sugar Workers Relief Committee. It has two arms, one arm in Kanji and one in Skeldon. The idea is we are establishing a database with the workers to see the size of their families, who have loans, and the skill sets of the various individuals. It is hoped that this database we could use to, if there's employment opportunities locally or elsewhere, to give the people the names and look, these are the skill sets, see if you could employ them. And then we're also running off, whilst we were compiling the database, we realize now that when you go into certain areas, like Crabble Creek for instance, and certain areas in number 77, 76 housing scheme, you will see that for the entire day, though there are children there of the sugar workers who have not had a meal. That is how desperate the situation is. And needless to say that many of these children have already stopped going to school because the parents would tell you simply that we cannot afford to send them to school, to pay for transportation, give them snacks, and prepare for things like SBAs and stationery. So uniform. This is so inconsiderate and unconscionable what the government has done to these people. Anyway, we are rolled out now a hot meals program in Crabble Creek and some other areas. There's also a school feeding program. We hope to do the same shortly in Kanji, but we need more hands on deck. We need everyone on deck. There are lots of religious organizations who are already with us, or we need more people to come on board. So we plan to do much more, but it all depends on the resources that are going to be made available from, that is the goodwill of our people here locally in Guyana. But because the economy is in such a sad state, there's only so much we can ask of our local businesses and corporations. They are also in the process of laying off people. So we have reached further afield to the diaspora with the expectation that help will be coming. Well, we have lots of commitments from them. There are short-term goals that we have, and then there are some medium-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals is as best as possible to feed these children and see what we could do to keep them in school. And then lobby for the prompt payment of severance pay. We're contemplating legal action there. And also we are strongly going to lobby for subsidies for electricity and water for the sugar workers that were dismissed, because that is also another problem. We expect that GPL and GWR will start disconnecting these homes soon because the bills are piling up. They simply don't have the money to pay it. Then we're also asking that they be given land. If the government is not going to reopen the sugar estates, and if they're not going to have buyers or diversify, you need to provide lands for these workers, and then you need to do the proper retraining of these individuals. So we will lobby for those things, and the response so far has been very good. But as I will make the point again, this is a problem that is beyond any one group. The PPP can't say that we will do this and do that and make commitments. That we are not a party like that will make promises and commitments to you that we cannot keep. But we are saying to you that we will do all that is in our power to help, because we realize that it is a humanitarian crisis, and we have compassion for these individuals. Some people are saying that you cannot give them handouts, and if you teach a man you should, instead of giving a man a fish, teach him to fish. But my response to that is, you can't have 4,000 to 5,000 people fishing in the one pond for 10 fishes. You understand? There are seriously limited opportunities for employment here in Berbice. Many of the workers, these are not lazy individuals. They want to work. They don't want to be asking for help. But they're constrained to, because they have walked the length and breadth of Berbice and cannot find a job. So that is what is happening here. Remember, these industries are being closed, the estates are being closed, and there's absolutely no alternative to absorb the labor force, and more so to pump monies back into the local economy. So it is an unmitigated disaster, and this government simply does not care about what is happening, and we are doing our best. And I think you are making some efforts overseas too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Adrian, for that update. And I know that our viewers in the Berbice area are well aware of the efforts ongoing, and they are well aware of the circumstances attendant on the ground. But this explanation would not have had any impact on them really, because they know what's going on. This explanation, I hope, would edify our followers on Facebook who are living outside of Berbice, and especially those who are living outside of Guyana. When I was in North America a few weeks ago, in Canada and the US, I met with some PPP support groups and some Guyanese in particular, and discussed the problem with them and inquired of the activities. It does not necessarily have to come through the People's Progressive Party. This is not a political issue alone. This is a humanitarian disaster upon us. And therefore, any organization through which you can channel help, be it the mosque, the mandir, any recreational organization, any health-based organization, these children are going to get sick soon. The issue of medical complications will arise. They can't afford food. How will they afford medical care in the days? If you can't make contact with either of us, I am sure you know people in the localities that are affected. Make contact with them, make contact with an institution, and ensure that you can make a difference once you have the capability of doing so. Any help would be welcomed. The government, as you know, is the perpetrator, so we can't expect them to help. I, for one, as optimistic as I am, I don't expect any help from the government. The government, I believe, intended this exact situation to take place. They want this to take place. And I've written several articles in which I've outlined the reason why they are doing this. They can find money, $10 million a year, to pay the light bill for Linden. They can find that money. $2 billion a year they can pay light bill for the entire community, where the rest of the country are required to pay their light bill, but they can't assist the sugar workers with jobs. They can't put that money to keep the industry alive. Now they have closed the industry. There is absolutely no social help or no help whatsoever coming from the government. You don't, and we are talking about 30,000 with 12,000 in Berbice or more. About how much in Berbice?
Workers there.
No, families and persons affected.
No, thousand, much more than that. 15, 20,000. 15,
we're talking about 15 to 20,000
Easy,
people
yeah.
in one locality. A disaster of that magnitude in one small locality in a population of 750,000, and the government is unmoved. The government is not doing anything to alleviate the situation. Are you still of the view that this is not by the design of the government? This is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to break up this area. They wanted to break the political backbone of the PPP. They see the sugar belt as the political stronghold of the PPP. So their intent is to dismantle it. It matters not that they may be wrong. It matters not the humanitarian destruction that will take place. Such is this government. So I say that to you to say that we can't look to the government for help. Their plan is working. this was their plan in the first place. So they are not going to intervene. And that is why I am appealing to the humanitarian instincts of all of us who are looking to get involved. As Adrian said, even the payment of severance has become a nightmare. In 2 minutes, tell me what the position with the severance is.
Well, they have not paid the full amount that are due to the majority of the workers who were dismissed. That is a violation of the law. Secondly, they have not calculated the amounts correctly. Many of the workers have been shortchanged in terms of the amounts.
I have been told that they are not telling the workers the particulars of the calculation.
They're not. No.
Because as you know, the calculation is a mathematical formula which the law sets out based upon the length of the last salary and the length of service, etc. When you take out tax and so on.
Yes.
And you calculate that. So it's very arithmetic. But if they don't disclose the numbers to the workers don't know that the amount that they are receiving actually accurately represents their legal entitlement.
And even those who were transferred now, they were transferring some from Kanji to Albion, but the law is, and the collective bargaining agreement and the Termination of Employment Act, that you have to put them in the same position, give them the same
That's
work
correct.
that they were doing in Kanji. They have to be doing the same thing at Albion. That is not happening also, so they are violating the workers' rights again. In that, many workers have come to my office and complained about that also.
So that is where we are. Even the entitlements, the legal entitlements of severance pay is not being paid. And Adrian, I am told that the senior staff at Gaisuku, whose responsibility it is to calculate the severance pay for the workers, are also in the same position.
Yes.
That they are not getting the severance pay either. So even the people who they have hired, the senior staff that they kept on for the purpose of calculating the severance, they themselves are not being robbed. So you have a very sad and tragic situation here, and it's unfortunate that we are running out of program time. This we could have discussed this for a much longer time. But Adrian, give me your wrap-up closing thoughts over the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll finish with the same thing, sugar. Now, this government knew from about a year or two back that they were going to terminate the employment of all these workers. And you know what? They did not budget for it. They didn't put the monies in the budget. If you know you're going to put all these people on the breadline, send them home, the least you could do is budget for it. So here you have a situation. They passed the budget in December actually. And you know that you're sharing all these termination letters in December. And
while the budget going on.
While the budget is going on, and you still didn't see it fit to put the monies in there to pay the workers. And the big plan was that the workers will be getting so many millions of dollars that they will go and invest it and set up businesses and do this and that. But all of that is pure hogwash. The severance for many of these people is $300,000-$400,000. And they're going to use that to survive for the next couple months. That'll hopefully, they have to budget it carefully to last a few months. So that is the kind of situation we have on the ground here, and it is going to get much worse very quickly.
All right. Thank you very much, Adrian, for being part of this program. Thank you very much, viewers. We have quickly run out of time. I apologize for not being able to take any phone calls during this program. And once again, let me wish you the rest of Mahashivratri. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. And until we meet again, please stay well, stay strong, stay healthy. And I'll see you next week, Tuesday. Good night.